Okay, gentlemen, we're live.
What are you saying?
We're live.
Saying my name? So I was calling him. It's really stupid. Really make
so stupid. I think it's that would be active,
destructive. Yeah, self-destructive.
Did you need reminders on the time? Or are you going to be okay?
Yeah, let's start.
Let's start.
Let's start. Are we live? Are we live?
Yeah.
I will check.
Rauli, pistä toi esitys tänne vielä.
Joo.
We are live.
Okay, let's start. Let's start again, and we start with this economy lesson named "Some Serious Thoughts About Early Economy." As said before, in my opinion, early economy is the deciding factor if you are competing for the win or not. And usually you can recognize winning players just by looking their fleets at turn 30. 28 to 30 is, in my opinion, the best turns to check out. Even the first games of the best players, they always have decent fleets at limit. Nothing to do with race. Competitive player will always have decent fleet with all races. And then there exists some players that play a lot but have impotent fleets game after game. This must mainly be because of lack of will to win. I don't find any other excuses because this part is the most easy to improve if you want. All other aspects of the game are built on early economy. First, if you have a decent fleet, it gives you more diplomatic options, as seen in the Rauli's presentation. If you have a decent fleet, you can plan strategy to execute with those ships. With decent fleet, you can perform tactics and tricks. Without a strong fleet, usually you can be nothing but a sidekick. Early economy is slightly different for all races. I'm not going to details, but the main thing for all races to aim before ship limit is firepower. You can have small niche ships, and you should also have, but what really matters is a pure firepower. Why is firepower so important? First thing is, you cannot have maximum firepower if you have not also built good support ships you can get your eco to fly with. Because of this, calculating just the firepower tells almost always the capability of your economy. Second thing is, after the ship limit, you can produce high-end support ships with priority points. On the other hand, usually you cannot build more carriers before the fighting starts. Third thing is, you will earn priority points with the firepower you have built. More firepower is more priority points. Sometimes misunderstood point is that if you play your economy right and aim to maximum firepower, you will nearly accidentally have also those good support ships. Put it other way, if you aim to something else than maximum firepower, you will never build also carriers and battleships by accident. If you ever aim for something else than a maximum firepower, there is big risk you are only maximizing the cannon fodder.
Hold on for a second.
Yeah.
Does the ass
No, I don't.
exploding?
No. There's no need.
Okay.
Okay.
I have points, but it's only for friends.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course there is the firepower can mean also things like good resolutes and good metal class blockade runners. It doesn't mean always only the carriers, but if you aim to maximum firepower, you cannot go very much wrong. But of course the firepower can in some situations mean something other than the big carriers. But I will say 95% of times, more the big warships you have at limit, the better. Okay, then one note, no race is an exception, not even privateers. Also with privateers, you should always aim at maximum firepower at limit. That means maximum fleet at limit. I wanted to say this because I cannot understand why such many privateer players have less than 20 meters at ship limit, even senior officers. I made some research from championship games, and the number of meters privateer player had in those were pathetic. 17, 9, 12, 16, 18, 13. And nearly all were like Mark 7, Mark 4. There were much transfers, but nearly all were Mark 4. So there is something wrong with the economy. And that was turn 30 in those games. I didn't count the ship limit. I take turn 30. This number is much less than carrier races should have carriers at ship limit. Must be something badly wrong. There was only one exception in championship games. Othrim had 37 meters at turn 28, and also good other ships. This is acceptable, and he gets my absolution. And and one note: he is a player always competing for the win. So he has tried. I would like to mention one mentors game. He showed me yesterday. It is best I have ever seen in privateers. He had 60 meters at turn 30. So it can be done if played properly. 9, there is no excuses for that number.
And as the old question, as Lizard, for example, also if you make sure that all the others don't get the firepower because you have 110 ships very early, then it doesn't matter if you can recycle them later.
Yeah, of course, there are many exceptions, but I think the main thing is that the more you have, the better. One exception that new standard games exist too. You need to calculate also priority points when you are comparing the fleets at turn 30. Maybe one carrier can be counted roughly 15 priority points in my calculations, but this is not an easy to count or calculate because also with bad economy you can produce meaningless bases to gather masses of priority points you don't even have resources to build ships with. So that lets you fully open for early attacks, and priority points are not the carriers directly or other ships. Remember also that if you have 15 carriers and your neighbor has 200 priority points, he needs to use his all resources to actually build those carriers. You can use all your resources at that point to build fighters and mines and crush this player just building these carriers. In my opinion, if economy is played right, you can have all the support ships, maximum firepower, and the priority points. And now the big question is how to build this good maximum fleet. The main thing is you need to push your economy to limits from the very first turn. Send out all possible resources from your home world to generate more resources. Do this as fast as you can. That is what the home world resources are for. If you miss sending resources out by one turn, that means roughly accumulated 28 turns at limit. Miss it by 2 turns and you are at worst 56 turns behind your opponent doing differently. Build up your planets as fast as you can. Learn how to do that. Adapt what you find, but do not forget the main things to build up things. Dig the minerals from the ground as fast as possible. Tax your natives to limits. Move enough clans. My natives are usually all at 40 happiness at ship limit, but there are many ways to tax natives efficiently. I'm not going to details about that. Keep your freighters and warships full maximum time. Also, when they are coming back, they can always move minerals to the positions they are better used. And this is the most important. Always think what you should and will do next. Calculate the moves of your ship so that there are 0 idling ship, bases, or planet waiting for something. Avoiding idling things is key to success. Before some more specific thoughts how to get your economy to fly, I will give you an example how one can improve his skills in planets. First, you need a target where to aim at. I believe that aiming to maximum firepower cannot go wrong. So that is what I tried to learn. I will now show you my robotic fleets at turn 28 in 3 consecutive games. In all these games, I did best I can. I learned from the previous ones and always aimed at the maximum firepower at limit. In the following ship list, only carriers are included because the support ships are quite the same in all games. Majority the freighters and transport catspaws. Actually, also the support ships are better in the games where also more carriers were built. Even I tried to maximize the carriers and the firepower. You can read details from my games. These ship lists are not the best one can build. There are always many ways to achieve equal firepower. But this is to show you that analyzing your game and making changes to your doings can really affect the outcome. My first game here in NU was actual robotic one. That was giant melee, very unskilled players. No big fights in the beginning, so I could do my economy in peace. I used some basic methods to build up my eco, taxed hard, send out resources fast, made not so many big mistakes. But this is important. My first medium deep space freighter had 150 clans, 50 supplies, and for some strange reason, 1,000 mega credits. I'm not sure, but possibly it meant to be 100. I don't know what I have doing back then. At turn 28, I had 66 planets, before not aggressive neighbors, quite much planets, 63 starships, 5 starbases, and 2 Merlins. And here are the carriers. 17 carriers, 4 Automa, 5 Golems, and 8 Instrumentality. Oh, I know that Instrumentality is not a big carrier, but it's a carrier, and this is a not bad fleet. Actually better than 90% of robotic games at NU I have seen, but this is not spectacular one. There is a lot to improve. One note about fleet, too many transports already that can be seen directly. Okay, the second game as a robot, Die Hard 16. This was very competitive game, very competitive players include Frost Trees and so. In this game, I had super bad duranium in the beginning. I found a first duranium planet with over 500 duranium in the ground around turn 10 or 11. I don't remember, but that was awful. I thought this whole game will suck, but as it did in the end. But before the ship limit, I could push some economy. I also concentrated more on support ships in this game since I was able to clone a Meteor, which took a lot of resources because it was transferred. I really now don't remember if at Mark 7 or Mark 4, but it took a lot of resources. I had actually 7 cloned transport Meteors at ship limit. Somehow sad that robot can build only a few less than privateers in player and championship games. But other support ships were quite the same as in first game. Transport catspaws and so. And my first medium deep space freighter had now 120 class, 80 supplies, and 350 mega credits. This more aggressive start, more supplies to build factories and mines in the first planet. This is very important. At turn 28, situation was 38 planets, less planets because of aggressive neighbors, 68 starships, 6 bases, and 2 Merlins. And here are the carriers. Now I have 23 carriers at turn 28, with 17 Automas, 4 Golems, 2 Instrumentalities, and those 7 cloned transport Meteors, which took a lot of resources. Then that's why I mentioned them. But definitely stronger fleet than in the first game. And actually, I think this is what your carrier fleet should look at limit if economy is played somehow right. You should have like you should always be able to do this amount of carriers. This is not. I had very bad beginning in that game and did these Meteors and did a lot of wrong with my economy also in this game. But this is, I think, this is a minimum you should be able to do. And this fleet also, this is Automas and bad engines, but this fleet cost roughly the same as 17 Rushes or 15 Virgos.
So are you towing them? Because they were
What?
not transforms.
Yeah, of course. And after a ship limit, when I have priority points, I can build transport instrumentalities and like that. But before the limit, I always tend to build Warp 5 or Warp 7 carriers, some transport though, but usually maximum. The third game as a robot, that is very high-level game, still going on. I have been at war since beginning, so a lot of mines must have been produced. That surely costed me some ship builds. First medium deep space freighter had 90 class, 110 supplies, and 450 mega credits. Notice most importantly less class and more supplies for a kickstart. At turn 28, situation was 48 planets, 69 starship, quite the same number in all games, 6 star bases, same number in all games, some Merlins. Because the game is going on, I don't tell you the exact number. Support ship somehow equal to other games, including majority of Cat's Paws. Actually, Q-tankers robots do not need. Robots can build hundreds of fighters in a turn with their carrier fleet, so don't build these guys usually. I had just played Blitz tournament and decided to use methods I learned there to build up my economy fast. This game is still going on, that is why ID numbers are hidden. Here are the carriers at limit. I had 35 carriers at turn 28. 18 automa, 9 golems, and 8 instrumentalities. I also had good support ships and 44 priority point, which was average in that game. There were some people who built absolutely no fleet, and they had like 100 priority point. But it was average. It was okay. When I started playing, I thought this massive fleet is just impossible to build before ship limit or before turn 28. But apparently it was not. So one aspect of my game has definitely been improved to the direction I was aiming at. Now you have seen that when I tried to learn to make more efficient economy aiming at maximum firepower, I succeeded. That does not mean everyone should build majority of automas or universally bad engine carriers. But that means that you need to have something you aim at. Then you can succeed on that. I could have produced some less carriers and with better engine or something. That is not important. Important thing is there were 35 of them. You cannot build those without decent economy. So how did I build this fleet? First, I will tell you 2 examples of some idling things you should avoid. At least the first is very familiar to many of you already though, but this is just an example. And then second, I will tell you, in my opinion, the most important, but at the same time, most wrong played part of the early economy. If you do not agree with me fully, that should at least make you think about the idea behind it. First example about idling things is idling colonists. Typical situation in every game before ship limit is you don't have enough class in your border planets to tax your natives at maximum efficiency. Something needs to be done to that. And you have limited number of clans you have time to send out. That is, when you have taxed natives fast to 40 happiness, you can move all but one clan to tax next planet until this first planet is happy again. Usually this first planet can actually receive more clans from next coming large deep space freighter, so you don't need to come back. You need only one clan to generate happiness, so 1,000 clans at planet gathering happiness when colonists are limited is wasting resources you should avoid. The other point about colonists, after you have built 200 mines on a planet, you can move colonists out to build up another planet to produce those important mines and factories fast. This will disappear only one per turn. Only 2, 3.
No,
oh, okay, okay,
no,
okay. But
it was 1. Now it's 3. Yeah.
Okay.
It makes
Then it's
it really expensive.
Yeah. Okay. But I did this and I thought it was 1. Okay. Only 200 clans can actually build up nearly as many planets as you want. Maybe 10. 10 if they are disappearing 3 per turn, then you have to, of course, bring more. But if you like have 5 turns and then the next ship is coming to bring more clans, that's not a big deal. Second example, not so familiar, and I'm pretty sure many players disagree with me, but in my opinion, it's idling rocks. This is situation in many games. First planet you found in a game is a dry rock. Maybe some minerals, but no natives. You are disappointed what to do. I have noticed many players just drop one plan and fly away. So wrong. This rock is important and good for you. First, this rock, when built up fast, will generate hundreds of minerals before ship limit. 2, first medium deep space freighter has just enough cargo to build up this rock. It has not enough cargo to build up a good native planet anyways. You need large deep space freighter for that job. 3, if you don't build up this rock now, you won't do it until much later. You can never afford to send your precious large deep space freighter to this rock anyways. So this rock will remain an idling rock for a possibly long time. This rock is the nearest planet of your homeworld. Forgetting that planet is a disaster. Actually, in my opinion, finding a rock first is actually a good thing. 1, your medium deep space freighter just found immediately a planet it can build up alone without need of another ship to visit this planet also. Second visit is a waste, I think, always. You get possible good mineral deposit near your homeworld if you build it up fast. When you find a rock first, you know where definitely not to send your first large deep space freighter. One extra note, if the first planet with the medium deep space freighter is a good native planet, never drop class from the NDS there. You need to visit this planet with large deep space freighter anyways. This leader freighter is for rocks. So
one clan.
One clan.
Oh, okay, but I'm not explaining the basics. So one clan you always should. Yeah, or 60 feet amorphous. So build this rock up always with the first medium deep space freighter. That is best thing this leader freighter can do for your economy. Okay. What you need for shipbuilding?
One question. Would
yes.
you then send it back to your homework?
Yeah, usually yes.
Or would you
Yes.
take 10 clans and scout?
Sometimes scouting. Sometimes drop only and leave like 10 clans and go scouting. Sometimes go back. Depends. Everything depends on the map and how to do it. But the main idea is that never. I think you should never forget the first rock you find, because of course it has 100 minerals or 10. But usually it doesn't. Usually it have more minerals. Okay, what you need for shipbuilding between turns 1 and 30, you need minerals and money. Faster the better. Most people already know ways to get mega credits fast. But when you need firepower, you need minerals. The most important thing in early economy when building up planets is to maximize the mines. Nearly always even before the factories. That is actually one of the most wrong played part of economy, so deeply rooted mistake that even the best players tend to do it. Yeah, that is supposed to be a little bit exaggerated and a little bit, yeah. But listen, historically players tend to build factories first because then you can leave the planet to develop nicely alone. Wrong. It will develop, but slow, way too slow. I will tell you another more aggressive way to develop your early planets. This example will be sharpened and exaggerated, so it does not mean you should or even can do this in every planet. Maybe you can do this in some planets, but not every planet. But this is just to get you think about it. But I'm sure you will get the idea behind this. All begins with that medium deep space freighter, your homeworld that you sent to conquer the world. When I started playing, I packed 150 clans, 50 supplies, and 150 mega credits. I built 50 factories, started to develop planets that way. Same universal idea I used after I conquered more planets, not always, but often. Next, I thought I could bring more cash so I can build up 100 factories right away. So 100 clan, 100 supplies, 300 mega credits. That was much better, but not close to what I should have done. Homeworld has 10,000 mega credits, you can afford it. Let's back this little freighter with 80 clans, 120 supplies, and 440 mega credits. 80 mines, only 40 factories. And let's see what happens in the calculations. Following calculation has been made with assumption that all planets have mineral density of 50% and above 1000 of all minerals. Of course, this varies a lot, but usually you can achieve even better results when you know what minerals you need, what you find, and guide your doings by that. For example, if a robot finds good uranium deposit in the beginning, he can execute even more aggressive mine production strategy.
Wait. Just a second. You assume that every planet has about 1000 of all minerals?
Yeah,
underground, and more than 50% of density. Yeah, that's not.
It's in the ground, so like 4,000.
I would like to have your rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is okay, but this is just calculation, and many planets you have planets which have like 8,000 some mineral. Some planets have 7,001 mineral. This is all much more than in this. So average. This is not very far from the average actually. Calculation and of course you have the information. If some planet has 10,000 uranium and it's 100%, then you know this is the planet I have to aggressively develop. So you can even achieve better results than in this calculation when you do things right. But the idea is that universally you should do something else than developing the factories and mines later. Of course, this varies a lot. Calculation has been made with assumption that player develops majority of planets enrolled with roughly the same manner. Of course, this is not 100% true, but if you look through the games, you will find that this is usually like 90% true. People have their habits. Usually, you can even see in the best player games, you can see a game where you find a very good mineral deposit and the player really builds 100 factories there, 0 mines, and starts to build the mines like 10, 20, 30, and 40, and it's awful. This strategy presented is not the best. You must guide your doings by what you find, and actually it's not usually possible to develop all planets like done in this calculation. But this following example will give you a hint how catastrophic the factories first let the planets develop alone strategy can be compared to aggressive mine building. In following calculation, the total amount of minerals mined is totally wrong, because when maximum number of mine has been achieved, all strategies will produce the same amount. But what most important, the difference in amounts is true. Some numbers can be and are inaccurate, and everything is always influenced such many things that accurate calculation can never be done. This calculation is so rough that it's actually totally wrong. But the idea behind is most important. You know when you see it. I really believe in this, and when presenting this, I'm sure I will make my own career much harder in the future. I really would not like to see all my enemies having 30 careers at ship limit. Okay, here are the development strategies. You go with the planet. This is the first one. You put 150 class, 50 supplies, 150 mega credits. Initial cost is 200 mega credits. Supplies converted to mega credits. And this is how the planet develops in 5 turns. Turn 5 is the turn I'm showing you, because at turn 5 you have actually, these strategies have like all have maximum factories at turn 5. So you can take this turn 5 as a calculation. And other second strategy is 100 class, 100 supplies, 300 mega credits. Initial cost is 400 mega credits. Extra cost is 200 mega credits compared to first one. And here you see what happens. And the last strategy, the most aggressive one, is you put 80 class, 120 supplies, and 440 mega credits. Extra cost is 360 mega credits per planet. And here you build always maximum mines. Here in these strategies you build first factories 10 mines, and here build the mines first. And this is how they develop. In the first, there are factories. here full factories, and you have produced 32 mines, and you have accumulated 13 minerals in 5 turns. You have 0 sublease, so like mega credits, no mega credit gain. Then the strategy 2, you build factories always at maximum and 10 mines. This is better. You accumulate the mines, and you have like 112 factories, 92 mines, but you have accumulated much more than in first 259 minerals, 0 sublease, so no mega credit gain. And in the most aggressive strategy, 80 mines right away, 10 maximum mines, and here you have 92 factories and 92 mines. You are some factories behind this, but you have like 680 minerals, which is actually like 1 carrier, and this is in 5 turns in 1 planet. This can be your first rock, and you have invested 360 mega credits more for that planet, and from that point you produce like same amount of sublease, so no mega credits gain here compared to this, but you got the minerals out of the planet very fast. Then if you execute the same strategy to 10 planets, let's say we are going through the ship limit and there are more planets you take, and the same overall idea with the 10 planets is like in the first strategy you have 130 minerals. Like I said, the total amount is wrong because of course when the planet is built up there will be more minerals, but the difference is the most important. Here you have accumulated like 2,590 minerals. That's roughly 4 carriers. Extra cost is at this point with 10 planets only 2,000 mega credits. In the most aggressive way, you have accumulated 6,800 minerals. That's roughly 10 carriers, and extra cost is only 3,600 mega credits compared to this first strategy. And this actually one important thing is the extra cost between this and this strategy, because it's very slight, very light. And
if you take 400 MCs in the second scenario extra, and then start with 100 factories, and then do the 100 mines in the second turn with the newly raised supplies.
100, 100, and 700.
I think
yes,
you get much
yes,
better.
yes. We are going to that.
When do you want to get some feedback, some hints? Where some
I think I go through this is a couple of slides and then we can discuss. Yeah. And there is like this is what happens in 10 planets when this is the overall idea you have done. In some planets you have not done this, but some planets you have done this maybe even more aggressive. You can have large deep space breakthrough to build right up 200 mines or something like that. What you find that depends on that. But before the ship limit, player usually has like 30 to 60 planets, so multiply this with the 30. Here is again now it's multiplied by 30 planets. In first example it's 390 minerals. In the second example it's 7,600 minerals. It's roughly 12 carriers. Actually, that is the amount of carriers many experienced players have at ship limit. And in the last example, it's 20,000 minerals you have accumulated more than in the first example. And it's roughly 30 carriers more. And you know, beginner players have 1 or 2 carriers at ship limit. And if you are very aggressive, you can have 30 carriers. So this is the difference. And now, this can also be calculated like this. When you are executing aggressive mine building strategy, you can actually buy 2 minerals for 1 mega credits. Compared to Merlin, 1 mineral for 3 mega credits. This is 6 times better, and you get the minerals before ship limit, which is most important. And the whole thing is you get these minerals before the ship limit, and you can usually afford it because extra cost is not so much when you find good native planets and also get the credits. And now you can see the total disaster of mineral gain with the first strategy. it's absolutely disaster. Of course, some players use this first strategy to 90% of planets, and then some planets they develop more aggressively, but a couple of planets do not help. But notice especially the very small difference in initial cost between two later development strategies, but with huge difference in mineral gain. So here you build the factories first. Here you build the mines first. The extra cost multiplied like 30 planets is extra cost is not. It's like under 5,000 mecha credits, but more than 12,000 minerals. It's huge, and now you can recognize players. Here are the beginner players. They have 0 carriers at ship limit, or 1 or 2, and that is the reason why. Then there are senior officer who knows how to do the economy, but minerals are just not getting digged as aggressively as should. They have 10 to 12 carriers at ship limit. And then it's very aggressive economists who can have 30 carriers at ship limit. And now what you said, there is, we discussed about this with Rauli Assaman. There is also a way to develop some planets even more aggressively. And of course you should. Beam down 700 mecha credits and you 100, so please 100 class, and you can build 100 factories right away and 100 mines next turn. In this manner, you can start gathering also the supplies from turn 2 with this planet. Problem is you must invest 800 mecha credits right away. That is much, but I think whenever you can, you possibly should, because this planet will pay back very soon. But there is the main thing is that the mineral gain with the between these 3 strategies it's huge. Okay, main points. There are many ways to do early economy efficiently, and sometimes you find better planets and sometimes you don't. But do not forget the main things. Always think what you should and will do next. Avoid all idling things in your home cluster. Use your colonists efficiently. Do not forget the rocks, and understand the crucial importance of building up mines fast. That makes the difference if you have 2, 10, or 30 carriers at ship limit. Thank you. and before I'm going to take the punches, I want to say that was the idea to be a little bit exaggerate and a little bit like that. And I know there is some people who wants to say something about it. Mentor?
Okay, I'll start. First, there is one wrong assumption, in my opinion, or at least one factor which is really ignored here. Your basic assumption that each planet in your spreadsheet, which it essentially just multiplies things out to a wonderful outcome, is not realistic. You generally don't find planets who have all minerals, all in a properly with 50%, with a good way of digging things up, and it just doesn't work that way. Usually most planets are much below 1,000, at least in those games which I've recently been played, and they have occasional planets where you have 4-digit numbers.
Of course, then you have to concentrate on these planets, but
no, but your spreadsheet is the best possible scenario for your games, which is completely unrealistic. If it was like this, every planet had thousands of then I would be almost entirely with some qualifications. Yeah. But at least in the last games which I've played all the time, I can say that these planets, once I am able to build a significant number of mines with my old school style,
But if you-
these planets tend to be mined out in 10 turns maximum. Then they are effectively mined out, except for its very low densities, or those planets where you really have large numbers. So it doesn't, and this is the first problem I see with your spreadsheet. If you develop such a planet early on in turn 2 or 3, and then it buffs out all the minerals, which you can easily get to turn 13, and then there is no more thing.
But you can build ships with that minerals. If you mine out the planet until turn 10, it's no problem.
Yes,
you can build a large deep space freighter with that uranium and spread your colonists. But if you don't, you get the minerals maybe at turn 30, and you couldn't build your ships.
Your spreadsheet, basically, on your spreadsheet, you get extra minerals from turn 13 to 30, which you don't, because you've already mined them out. So the real numbers are going to be smaller. This is
No, you read the spreadsheet wrong. That was the 5 turn.
It was
Yeah.
the 5 turns
for 30 planets.
Yeah.
To 5.
That must
In
because
5
you all the time get new planets to develop with, and this was the difference between when you develop new planets, you get them more. Actually, the first planet to find, it's not so important because you possibly mine it up, all minerals up, but at turn 10, you get possibly 50 new planets in a one turn, and if you put all these in your old way and build factories fast, you won't get these minerals before turn 30. But if you put mines first, then you can get.
Of course I do. I mean, the thing is, of course I do. I get them slower than you do. So
Yeah,
I get them slower
Maybe
than
at
you
turn
do.
60.
The main difference I see. Okay, let's discuss mines first or factories first initially. What's the difference? The difference is if you go factories first, you effectively increase your money throughput. So yes, you do, because if you build factories for the first term, then the next term you automatically have 100 or 120 or so extra supplies or extra.
But if you invest more money in this example, if you compare this and this, you won't get 0. Okay, you get 10 more mega credits in this. If you execute this strategy, you actually at turn 5 you have 0 money in both planets, and after that they are producing quite the same. Turn 6 there will be as many factories as in this. There are no difference between the money production with these strategies. The only difference is initial cost difference, which is 160 mega credits.
I want to put a side left field point to this one, which is that when you go mines first, we're looking now what you build ships with. But also the thing is that you will have lots of neutronium on your planet.
Of course, you can overwarp. You
which
can
kind
go
of
further.
allows you to overdrive your warp factors. In your
Yes,
ships
of course.
Send more
That
planets out.
is why neutronium is not excluded from the calculation, because in these calculations I calculate how many carriers these are. Neutronium you cannot build carriers with, but I have realized that neutronium is very important, because if you want to be at maximum efficiency, you have to overwarp your ships in the beginning very, very much if you are not playing colonies or something, or privateers. And here I want to say one thing to Mentor, because of course sometimes there are situations I will build factories first in some planets, but this if you look through the games, some very experienced player games, you can see that there are many situations where this is totally failed. I must now tell one example about the Mentors game. There is, everyone can check this out. Everyone can check this out. I'm not wrong. He found in a robotic game in Nightmare Invitational, he found a very good uranium deposit, like 5,000 uranium, like 60% or something. I'm not accurate about the numbers, but it was very good. And he produced it like this and even more like this. And after about 10 turns, it didn't have maximum mines. If that planet would have been did like this, this would have been mined out the 5,000 uranium before the ship limit. Now, at the turn 28, that planet has like 4,000 in the ground. That was just one example, but you will find these planets in every player's games that are mined totally wrong.
I don't
That's
think
my-
we have to blame anybody, but the main reason why I agree with Mentor is you need to build up a cash supply first
Of
to
course,
supply other planets with mines.
of course.
Therefore, and the second thing, which is not named here, you spoke about the example that the MDSF you're starting with is going out, and it comes to a planet you don't know.
Yeah.
So you don't know the best economic strategy not before starting. So you have to make an assumption.
Of course,
like you do.
of course.
And I really like the 80 clans version, which I did on my own as well, or even the 100 clans, 100 supplies, 700
Yeah,
megacredits version is all around. If you can have the 700 megacredits, which is
Yes.
for the first MDSF possible. But when you build at first an LDSF
But
and
yep,
you
yeah.
invest in tech, your 10,000
Yeah.
megacredits start melting very fast.
Yeah.
And it is not
Yes.
redoable very often
Yeah.
if you don't.
And I'm not saying
choose
that
for-
you should melt the whole. I think the first medium deep space reactor, you can put it like this. It's not a big deal. But then of course you have to adapt. If you find a good native planet like turn 2, turn 3, you can push out the mega credits. But the main thing is where to use those mega credits. It doesn't depend that you don't have mega credits. No, in all games I went through, there were mega credits, but they went possibly to the home world to take up text or something else than building the mines. Even in the planets with very good mineral density, some planets, because it's very nice to develop planets like putting in 100 can and 100 supplies and some mega credits continue, and the planets will develop themselves. But the difference is where to use those mega credits. You never can do this in every planet, never,
The thing
and
is,
I cannot.
yeah, it's relatively simple for the robot because the robot
Yeah,
is a race which can put away lots of minerals very early. So for the robots, I tend to see the point going the other direction.
Yeah.
Many other races, I would always venture to say most other races, are initially not limited by minerals but by cash.
yeah, but
this
this
is-
example don't hamper your cash production in any way. I think it doesn't hamper your.
Yes, they do.
No, sometimes,
We can
yeah.
agree. We can agree that the first
Yeah.
scenario, where effectively the mines are slowly built up, this is ineffective. We can agree on that.
Yeah.
The second version, which you have there, looks more realistic to me, even though I would prefer some slightly different numbers, but
Yeah.
no point in discussing that. This way, you can make sure that as quickly as possible, you can get the supplies going, because picking up 100 or to 120 supplies each turn, each round is important. And I agree with overcharging the mines as quickly as possible on those planets which warrant it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But we should definitely not do it like this on the typical rock, which has maybe 600 or 700 minerals in the core, which you could get out by mines, and then this is it. Because this is the majority of planets,
Okay.
other than your
yeah.
spreadsheet.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Of course,
still
that has
think
changed.
there's a point in doing that because you don't ever have to revisit it other than with your Merlins later to use the supplies.
No.
Yeah, but I,
Usually I fly past rocks anyway when I go to someplace same. So passing by a rock, you do it anyway.
But actually, I would just venture a suggestion. I mean, we've been having the possibility of doing scenarios. What I was thinking about for quite a while is, why don't we just create a couple of those scenarios which run for 50 turns?
Yeah, we
Or
have
38,
talked
and then
about the
And then we
Rowley
are
to
talking-
build up an economic scenario.
And
Yeah.
then we are just goldfishing our
Yeah.
turns through
Yeah.
and see where it
Interesting,
yeah.
goes. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, I agree with several of your conclusions. Just I disagree with the dogmatic way you push
Yeah,
it on
yeah.
everything.
This
And-
is exaggerated, and I won't do this. But this is just to if you are a turn turn 30 and you have 60 planets, I'm pretty sure there are many planets that could be developed like this, and still they are not. And of course, this has changed a little bit when now the planets seem to be like bad planets and good planets. So you have to concentrate more. But I know that the calculation is wrong, and you can do it better when you concentrate on those planets that are really mineral rich. But still, when I look player games, there those are 100 factories and 0 mines in a planet with very high mineral density. And this is not to blame anyone. I did this every time. I had one biocide in my Borg game, and I did everything wrong. But I think this is some idea behind it. When you think what you need before limit, minerals are usually much more harder to get than mega credits.
It's about this, not just
Yeah.
Just see it.
It's about
He wants to demonstrate a principle, and he made some assumptions about the planets. And we can agree that on average, the density will be 50%. Does the model, do the benefits change if there are 500 of each mineral instead of 1,000 in the ground?
Of course, they are mined out more fast.
I can assume there were still the same sort of benefits, right?
Yeah, of course, but you get the benefits earlier. So,
Yes.
but in my opinion, the minerals earlier the better, because they boost your economy. For example, large deep space breaker is hard to build because uranium is in homeworld is rare, and more you have minerals, you can bring back to homeworld, more large deep space breaker you can build. I just think that minerals help.
I agree, and
Yeah.
but let's just assume he's trying to demonstrate the principle, and for that he makes a couple of assumptions.
Yeah.
He said in the beginning, in reality, you don't do this on planets with good natives. And I think the principle is very well demonstrated, and he's right.
Yeah, but the one thing is missing, and that's if you look at this from if you want to compare scenarios, you need to have sort of the same starting points. And if you give a base scenario with 200 MCs, then you compare it with something with 560 MCs, you say, oh, it's only 360 more.
Yeah.
If I had those 360 in the first scenario, I would have 50 factories, 100 factories, 125 and 25
Yeah,
mines
of course.
in turn 3.
Yeah, but
then
usually no one does this.
125 in
Yeah,
turn
yeah.
4.
But usually no one does this. Usually people just bring cash to few. I think many games, there are many planets that could be developed up more aggressively, and there are a lot of mega credits laying in the ground in a homeworld or something.
No, I see a lot of
And-
take over a
I
position. A
absolutely
lot of people are
agree.
lazy.
You said that money can also be idling, and to have no money be idling.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
true. You
Just
should
be
always be
And-
just able to build your own.
And remember that in this does not mean I tell you that you should not. You should also build up the mines. Of course, you have to. In the second turn, you have 1,000 plants going to your first native planet, and maybe after that turn, and of course you have to get the cash also at maximum efficiency. But this means that every time you can afford, in my opinion, you should use your mega credits to build mines more fast than usual players do. That is the main
It's nice
idea.
to have some scenarios.
How many,
Okay.
how many planets do you usually have in a kind of sustainable colonization range by the ship limit? I mean, like the pool of planets that can be exploited in the first place. I haven't actually ever counted this, so that's why I'm asking. But I'm thinking something between 30 to 40 planets.
30 to 50, I think,
such
yeah.
that you can reach them early enough to actually exploit them and
Yeah.
get something back. And in that sense, we can see that perhaps the majority of these won't be good with minerals, but there's still a significant pool of planets which actually have durable minerals to pick up and don't run out immediately. So in that sense, I can get behind the principle pretty well.
And when you are at turn 1, you can get 1 planet. When you are at turn like 20, you can possibly exploit at that turn. You build up like 10 planets, and planets build up at turn 20. If it's done like this, that is a disaster. If it's done like this, you still don't get the minerals before the limit. But if it's done like this, you can get the minerals there from before the limit. So actually it becomes more important when you are coming closer to the ship limit.
Well, there's one more factor. Sorry, there's one more important factor which we haven't discussed yet, and that is you said you're overcharging, you're overtaxing your natives. That's actually an interesting thing, because in order to play it your way, you have to do it. Usually, at least in my experience in my games, the limiting factor for properly developing as many ships in order to be able to push outwards is cash. And yes, you can of course supercharge your ability to quickly get this cash by, for example, maxing out your best planets. But this is a two-edged sword, in my opinion, because the way you do it, you end up with a pretty much depleted area of yours and native of yours when you hit ship limit.
That's true.
This is appropriate.
Yeah.
This is appropriate in the hard ship limit times of classic. In the new version with a new production queue, I wonder if this is the best thing. I'm careful here, because in my playing experience nowadays, there is no such thing as a real hard ship limit anymore. Because when you hit ship limit, you also still have a stockpile of priority points, which you can then use to build whatever you still need. And this means that for a while after this ship limit has been reached, there is still going to be more production. You don't have the luxury to just say, okay, for the next 20 turns, I'm neither going to produce or get anything. I'm just letting my planets recover.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and you are absolutely right. This example works better in Classic, and also my explanation about my style to punish my natives, it works better in Classic. It's not very bad strategy in this standard also, but it's less. I think it's less effective, and there surely is a better tactics. And I know I'm not very perfect taxing specialist, but one deciding factor, if you can punish your natives hard, is if you have another planet, you can take the colonists, so you can actually, when you are at front lines going taking new planets, and if you have new planets, you have only 1,000 planets and you have 2 planets which you can get resources from, then you can punish the first planet, then you can take up the colonists and get that planet to get happy, because you don't have 1,000 planets to both planets anyways. So you can do it. It depends on the situation always. But
yeah, for me, I really would like to test it once. The point is the ship limit hit turn 30.
Yeah.
Okay? What normally then happens is that everybody builds star bases in this area. So for me, a star base is nearly the same amount of minerals like a carrier. So your economy has to be stable on that one.
Yeah.
And therefore you should have a very fluid economy which has cash and minerals.
Yeah.
And you have to spread it, not from the inner circle. You have to produce it where it is needed.
Yeah, of course, and that's why you should also look at the games after the ship limit and see if you have be able to build also the star bases. Because, for example, in my robotic game where I have 35 carriers, I couldn't produce enough star bases in the next 10 or 20 turns. But I think it's not because I built so many carriers. It even say many, but of course, I think the more you build before, it's better.
This is a build up in total for rushing the first 1 or 2 neighbors. But then you have at first in your own core area a little bit burned land.
So, gentlemen, we'll go offline now from the broadcast, and I'll start setting up the next one. Meanwhile, we'll have something like 5 to 10 minutes to still continue the discussion before I set up the stage for the next presentation. So we'll be back in something like 5 to 10 minutes with McNimble on plugins. And Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Tonight.
Yeah, it's something for hot tub discussion.
Yeah, this is something that is really cool.
And that was
But I think you're